10-year-old boy crouches beside a creek in the Riverina in 1974, a pocket knife in one hand and a forked stick in the other. He is making a slingshot from a strip of inner tube and a leather tongue cut from his old-school shoe. His father is 2 paddocks away on the tractor. His mother has not seen him since breakfast. Nobody is watching. Nobody is worried. And if that same boy did that same thing in that same paddock today, he could be looking at a fine, a confiscation, or a visit from the police. This is a countdown of 20 things every Australian schoolboy did in the bush in the 1970s that could land him in serious trouble under modern law. Most of them his parents encouraged. Some of them his school expected. Every last one of them was considered perfectly normal, and not a single one of them felt dangerous at the time. Number 20, riding in the back of the ute tray on the open road. Every boy who grew up in the bush knows the feeling, the wind pulling at your shirt, the rattle of corrugated iron underneath, your back against the wheel arch, legs braced against a hay bale, watching the dirt road unspool behind you at 80 kilometers an hour. Nobody wore a seatbelt because there was no seatbelt to wear. You rode in the tray because the cab was full, or because the dogs were in the front, or because riding in the back was better, and everyone knew it. In every state today, carrying passengers in a part of a vehicle not designed for passengers is illegal. In New South Wales, it carries a fine of $344 and 3 demerit points. In Victoria, 370. In rural Australia in 1976, it was called getting a lift. Number 19, swimming unsupervised in a farm dam, no fence, no gate, no sign, just a brown oval of water at the bottom of the hill paddock, deep enough to drown in and warm enough by December to make it irresistible. The water was the color of milky tea. The banks were slippery clay. You could not see the bottom, and you never knew exactly how deep it was until you jumped in and found out. Boys swam in farm dams the way they breathed, alone, with mates, after school, before milking. Your parents knew you were there. They had done the same thing at the same age in the same dam. Today, duty of care laws mean a landholder who allows a child to swim unsupervised in an unfenced dam can face serious legal consequences. Royal Life-Saving Australia has confirmed that farm dams remain the most common location for child drowning deaths in rural areas. The dams have not changed. The law around them has. Number 18, catching yabbies with opera house nets. You tied a chop bone inside the wire trap, lobbed it into the creek, and came back after school to a dozen common yabbies crawling over each other. It was the easiest fishing there was. Today, opera house nets are banned in all public waterways in New South Wales, Victoria, and the Australian Capital Territory. Platypus, water rats, and long-necked turtles enter the enclosed traps and drown because they cannot find the exit. The ban came into force in New South Wales from 2003. The most popular yabby trap in Australian history is now a prohibited device. Number 17, keeping a blue-tongued lizard as a pet. You found one under a sheet of corrugated iron in the paddock, picked it up by the middle, put it in a shoebox with some lettuce, and called it yours. Half the boys in the Mallee had one at some point. The big ones would flatten their bodies and hiss at you, blue tongue out like a warning flag. Today, every native reptile in Australia is protected. In New South Wales, the Biodiversity Conservation Act of 2016 makes it an offense to take any native animal from the wild without a license. Penalties can reach $220,000 and 2 years imprisonment. If you want a pet blue tongue now, you buy one from a licensed breeder and apply for a reptile keeper license. The lizard has not changed. The paperwork has. Number 16, collecting wild bird eggs from nests. Egg collecting was practically a hobby for bush boys. You learned to identify a willy wagtail nest by its felt-like cup of grass and cobweb. You knew where the magpies built in the iron bark along the creek. You climbed for them, blew them through a pinhole, and kept them in cotton wool inside a cigar box. Today, taking the eggs of any native bird is a criminal offense in every state and territory. In South Australia, penalties under the National Parks and Wildlife Act of 1972 can reach $100,000 or 2 years imprisonment. At the Commonwealth level, exporting native bird eggs can attract up to 10 years in prison. Number 15, cutting a young sapling or branch from native bush. You needed a fishing rod. You needed a billy hook. You needed a handle for the axe. So you walked into the scrub with a tomahawk and cut one. A young river red gumsucker, a straight piece of blackwood, a wattle branch with the right bend. It was so ordinary nobody considered it an act of anything. Today, removing native vegetation is a serious offense in every state. In Western Australia, the maximum penalty for unauthorized clearing is $500,000, with daily penalties of $100,000. In New South Wales, fines for individuals can reach $1 million. The boy with the tomahawk did not know he was clearing native vegetation. He was making a fishing rod. If you grew up in the Australian bush and you are watching this, you already know where this is going. And you probably remember doing at least half of these before you turned 12. The ones coming next get heavier. Number 14, catching and selling rabbits for pocket money. Well into the 1970s, boys in western New South Wales and Victoria were still trapping and shooting rabbits and selling carcasses to the local freezer works or the traveling rabbito for a few cents each. During the Depression, entire families survived on rabbit income. Lorry loads of them left Braidwood and Goulburn for the Sydney markets. By the 70s, it was mostly pocket money, but it was real work, done by boys as young as 10. You learned to read the runs, set the traps downwind, and skin a carcass in under a minute. An old-timer, outside Deniliquin, who had been trapping since the 1930s, once told a local historical society that a quick boy could skin and peg 60 rabbits in an hour. That kind of speed came from starting young. Today, selling wild-caught game meat without a license is illegal under food safety regulations in every state. The freezer works are closed, the rabbitoes are gone, and the business that taught a generation of bush boys about work and money has been regulated into memory. Number 13, fishing in a creek without a license. You walk down to the Murrumbidgee with a hand line and a tin of worms. No license, no bag limit you were aware of, no closed season that mattered to you. You caught what you caught, and you ate it for tea. Today, a recreational fishing license is required in New South Wales, Victoria, and most other states. In New South Wales, fishing without one can attract a fine of over $200. In the 70s, a boy with a hand line in a creek was just a boy with a hand line and a creek. Now he is an unlicensed recreational fisher. Number 12, making a slingshot and shooting at starlings. Every boy had one. A forked stick, 2 strips of rubber, a leather pouch. You shot at cans. You shot at fence posts and you shot at introduced birds because starlings and sparrows were pests and every farmer in the district wanted them gone. Today, a slingshot is classified as a prohibited weapon in New South Wales. Possessing one without a permit carries a maximum penalty of 14 years imprisonment under the Weapons Prohibition Act of 1998. 14 years for the thing your grandfather made you out of a mulga fork and a bicycle tube on a Sunday afternoon. Number 11. Setting rabbit snares and gin traps. Boys set them along fence lines and rabbit runs across the back paddock. Steel jaw traps. Wire snares looped over burrow entrances, checked before school and again after. Your father taught you to set the plate tension so it would not fire on a magpie. Never set a trap where the dog runs. That was the rule every boy knew. It was pest control. It was practical. And in the Riverina and the Western Districts, it was as normal as feeding the chooks. Gin traps are now banned in every Australian state. In Victoria, they were prohibited from 1984. In New South Wales, steel jaw traps have been illegal since 2002. The trap that every stockman's son knew how to set is now classified as an instrument of cruelty. Number 10. Carrying a knife everywhere, including to school. A boy in the bush in the 70s carried a pocket knife or a sheath knife the way he carried his hat. It was a tool. He used it to cut baling twine, to skin a rabbit, to sharpen a stick, to pry a stone from a horse's hoof. He took it to school in his pocket and nobody blinked. Today, carrying a knife in public without a lawful excuse is a criminal offense in every state. In New South Wales, the maximum penalty is 2 years imprisonment or a fine of $2,200. In Queensland, it is 12 months. The knife has not changed. It still cuts baling twine. But the boy who carries it is now committing a weapons offense. The ones coming next are not just fines and confiscations. These are the ones that could put a grown man in front of a magistrate today. For a boy in the 70s, they were just Saturday. Number 9. Building a cubby house from bush timber in state forest. You found a spot between the roots of an iron bark, dragged fallen branches together, wove bark sheets across the top, and called it a fort. You spent weeks on it, sometimes months. You stocked it with a tin billy, a box of matches, and a couple of old blankets from home. It smelled like eucalyptus and damp earth and wood smoke. If you had one, you remember it. Today, constructing any structure in a state forest or national park without a permit is illegal. Removing bark, timber, or native vegetation from Crown land is an offense under state forestry regulations. The cubby house that took all summer to build would now be an illegal structure on public land, assembled from unlawfully removed native materials. Every plank a violation, every strip of bark an offense. Number 8. Riding a motorbike on a public road before the legal age. In the bush, a boy got on a motorbike when he could reach the pegs, 10 years old, sometimes younger. He learned on the back paddock and graduated to the dirt roads between properties. Nobody asked about a license because nobody expected him to have one. Today, the minimum age for a learner motorcycle license in New South Wales is 16 years and 9 months. Riding an unregistered motorbike on a public road carries fines exceeding $700. If the rider is a minor, the parent who permitted it can face charges as well. Skip this one if you grew up in town. But if you grew up past the black stump on a property where the nearest neighbor was 20 minutes away, the next 5 entries will sound like your childhood. Number 7. taking timber from Crown land for fence posts. A farmer needed posts. So he sent his boys out with a ute and a chainsaw to cut ironbark or red gum from the state forest boundary. You dropped the trees, split the rounds with a maul and wedges, and came home with a tray full of posts that would last 40 years in the ground without a drop of chemical treatment. Ironbark posts driven into the black soil of the Liverpool Plains in the 1950s are still standing today. That was the whole point. You cut them because nothing else lasted. Today, removing any timber from state forest without a license is an offense in every state. The timber your grandfather built his fence from is no longer yours to take. A chemically treated pine post from the hardware store lasts about 15 years and costs $12. The ironbark one lasted a lifetime and cost an afternoon. Number 6. Driving the family ute across the paddock at 12 years old. On farms across the Darling Downs, the Hunter Valley, and the southwest slopes, boys drove utes and tractors as soon as they could see over the dashboard. They moved stock. They carted hay. They drove to the back gate and back. While some jurisdictions still allow supervised driving of farm vehicles on private land, any driving on a public road by an unlicensed minor is a criminal offense. The minimum age for a learner driver license in New South Wales is 16. A 12-year-old behind the wheel on the road to town would be an unlicensed driver today, and his father could face charges for allowing it. Number 5. Lighting a campfire wherever and whenever you pleased. Boys lit fires in the bush without a second thought. A fire to boil the billy, a fire to cook a yabby, a fire to keep warm while fishing at the Lachlan after dark. No permit, no fire danger rating, no cleared perimeter. Today, lighting a fire in a national park or a state forest outside a designated fireplace is illegal in most circumstances. On a total fire ban day, lighting any open fire is a criminal offense in every state. In New South Wales, penalties can reach $25,000 or 12 months imprisonment. The boy who lit a fire to cook his lunch in the snowy mountains in 1973 was doing what every bushman had done for a century. Today, that fire could cost him a year in jail. Number 4. Shooting a .22 caliber rifle unsupervised at the age of 12. A boy got a single-shot .22 for his birthday, and he used it alone on the back of the property. He shot rabbits, he shot foxes, he shot at cans on fence posts. Before the National Firearms Agreement of 1996, there was no national minimum age for firearm use, and licensing varied wildly between states. Today, the minimum age for a firearms license in most states is 18. A minor in some states can apply for a permit from 12, but only with parental consent, mandatory safety training, and direct adult supervision at all times. The boy who walked out the back door at dawn with a rifle over his shoulder and came home at dusk with 3 rabbits would today be an unlicensed minor in possession of an unregistered firearm. Both he and his father would face charges. Number 3, burning off a stubble paddock without notification or a permit. After harvest, you lit the stubble. You picked a still day, told the neighbors, and touched it off. Sometimes the boys did it. Sometimes the boys did it without telling anyone. Today, burning off on private land requires a fire permit during the fire danger period in every state. Burning on a total fire ban day is a criminal offense carrying 12 months imprisonment and fines of $25,000. A boy who lit a match in a stubble paddock in 1975 was doing what his grandfather did. A boy who did it today could go to prison. Number 2, clearing native timber to open up a paddock. If a tree was in the way, you pushed it over with the dozer, ring-barked it, or dropped it with a chainsaw. Boys helped. Boys learned. Nobody applied for a permit because permits did not exist for most private land clearing until the late 80s and 90s. Today, clearing native vegetation without approval is one of the most heavily penalized environmental offenses in Australia. In New South Wales, the maximum penalty for an individual is $1 million. In Western Australia, it reaches $500,000 with daily penalties of $100,000. In 2024, a landowner near Narrabri in New South Wales was fined more than $1 million for clearing 1,262 hectares. The biggest fine ever imposed on an individual in the state. The boy who pushed over a few box trees with the family bulldozer in 1972 was learning to farm. Doing the same thing today could financially destroy a family. Number 1, lighting penny bungers, double happies, and skyrockets on Cracker Night. This was the pinnacle. Empire Day, then Queen's birthday. Whatever your state called the night when every boy in Australia was handed a brown paper bag full of fireworks and told to go outside. Penny bungers thrown into creeks, skyrockets launched from milk bottles on the back lawn, Catherine wheels nailed to the clothesline post, bungers buried in cow pats in the bottom paddock, Tom thumbs thrown at your sister. The whole street smelled like gunpowder, and the sky above every town in Australia from Cairns to Albany lit up orange and white and gold. Boys were in the thick of it, and nobody called it dangerous. They called it June. Between 1972 and 1985, every state and territory banned the private sale and use of fireworks. The Australian Capital Territory was among the last, restricting sales from 1983. Today, possessing consumer fireworks without a pyrotechnics license is an offense in every jurisdiction. In New South Wales, penalties can exceed $5,500. In Queensland, they reach more than $60,000 under the Explosives Act. The night that defined Australian childhood for a generation is now a criminal offense. Every brown paper bag a charge sheet. Every sparkler on a stick the last echo of something that is never coming back. Pick one, just one of these 20 things, not the ones that will get you arrested. But find a creek, catch a yabby with a lift net and a chop bone. Take your children to a farm dam and teach them to swim with someone watching. Light a campfire in a proper fireplace and boil a billy over red gum coals. Do something with your hands that your grandfather did with his. Ask your grandparents which of these they remember. Ask which ones they taught their children. And ask what it felt like when the last one disappeared. Leave a comment and tell us which one you did, which one you miss, which one you would teach your kids if you still could. Your grandparents knew, now you know too.